Once upon a time, not long ago, when people wore pajamas and lived life slow.
What it is, YouTube, you know who it is. It's your boy, the Moose. Moose Boy. Let's get, man, I ain't right. The stars are light, are big and bright. Deep in the heart of Texas. Okay, that worked. Right in the head. I am not right in the head. I hope you like that little bit coming in. Listen, Slick Rick, man. It's called Story Time by Slick Rick. Oh my God, that you gotta listen to. I wish YouTube would let me play the whole song with Story Time, because that's just the sick shit, man. Anyways, so I thought I'd just bust out with a story, man, because I ain't told some juicy gig-log stories in a while. So, okay, so let's see here. Which one do I want to tell you? Okay. All right. So here it is. When I just started. So I just started. Actually, it was the first gig, my very first gig, which is this picture right here. That's all I have there. Okay. So we're gonna start there, and we're gonna get into the three. We're gonna get into the big three, okay? Because the big three is what made me into what I am. Okay, so the very first gig, I just like decided to wanna get into the DJ game. So I didn't really know how to start. I didn't know nothing. I've been learning ever since that day that I hit the ground running. So I thought that, because I didn't know that I knew there was Thumbtack. Okay, golly, man. Oh man, we don't even want to get that taste in my mouth. And then I found Bark later, which was my kind of my nail in the head, because those two places cost me a lot of money. I mean, cost me a lot of money. I spent a lot of money trying to get gigs off of them. And the sad thing about it is, when I first started, you first started and you don't know what to do. You've never done this adventure before, so you're making mistake after mistake after, not the DJing part, but the ownership, trying to get the business going, trying to get everything started. It's just been a big flawed out mess, right? So as everything's going, I get this gig from Craigslist. I started on Craigslist, and I remember I got my first gig. That day, I just posted 5 minutes, and I got one. A legit gig. This is my only gig off of Craigslist that I got. My legit gig. So this was the deal. I was gonna go down to 6th Street, and I was going to do this private bar. That's what I was going to do. The private bar had a pool and everything, and just the way it was set up was kind of cool. It was cool, don't get me wrong. It was set up for pool parties. And the way they have the setup, if you look at the picture here, this is the picture, and you can see my DJ gear set. I wish I would have took more pictures than just this picture. I wish I would have, but this, like I said, was my very first gig. At least I took a picture of my setup. Now this Gemini, man, it was a gem. It was a standalone, so I really didn't need a computer. All I had to do was have my trusty old dipstick, and I had this dipstick right here. It's a gorilla. Man, I'm gonna give me another gorilla. I love that dipstick. That thing lasted me a long time. I've washed it 4 times and it still worked. Kind of crazy, man. I had that end cap on it, and one time I washed it. My wife's like, "Honey, you're gonna have to get a new USB port because I just washed your shirt and it had it in there and I didn't check the pocket." I said, "No, don't worry about it. I'll buy another one later." But that's the beginning of not the moose. Okay, let's get that straight. I was not the moose. I was the goose. The goose. Now, YouTube came on down later. Now, I'm going to explain that to you how it fit in. But, so, that day, I was the goose. So, I went to this gig as DJ Goose. Right? It sounded good at that. Oh, I'm sorry. DJ Spruce Goose. Okay, so if you're familiar with Spruce Goose is one of those big old aeroplanes that they used back in World War II. It was a bomber plane, actually, that they used, and they named it the Goose. Spruce Goose is the name. It was one of the, let's get out of that. Yes, right. So, I set up. I brought everything because I didn't know what I needed. And I didn't bring much. Because what I had at the time was I had the habangers, these guys right here. The set. And it was oh man, I got rid of those too. And I should have never got rid of those. They were 10s and they were perfect. I've rocked a lot of party with them. I do small parties, so I never got over 100. Never gone over 75 people. I still don't get over 75 people in my gigs. The next gig that I have coming up is a sprinkle of 25 people. But so I don't do these big, huge gigs. You know, I'm more like, I don't know. I love what I do it. I love what I am. I'm not going to get out of this. I do a wedding time to time, and I have more people than I know how to count, but I just don't. So, I get to the gig. I set up. I figure out how to set up. They had XLR wires laying. Like I said, the last time I dealt with the XLR wire was the 5-point wire for lighting in school. I never got a chance to plug in anything into XLR until that day. So I plug into my DJ controller, which it plugged right in, no problem. And they had these big old speakers. I mean, these things were old monsters. Just plug. There's a switch that you played. You hit the switch, and I had that thing rocking. Dishes were flying off the shelf. It's so funny, man. I was rocking. I had that place bumping. And I don't know how many people there were, because I really don't know, because they were over in another room the whole night until the fight. So how it went is I got there, I set up, I started working. The guy drops off 2 bones. He dropped off 2. So he gives me 2. And I'm like, okay, I'm new, so I'm really, you know, I didn't get a chance to discuss how much of it. I said $100. It was going to be $100 an hour is what I discussed. He said, cool, I'm cool with that. So he drops off 2. So I thought, oh, okay, well, I'm going to be here 2 hours, right? So I didn't think nothing of it. 2 hours come by, here he comes again, drops 2 more. So now I got to 12:04. I've been there 3 hours. He comes back up to me the 4th hour. It was 1 o'clock. He drops off 2 more. So I got $600 off this guy, right? No problem. I'm still DJing. So it got to 2 o'clock. And it got to 2 o'clock. And next thing you know, the scuffle happened. So they got this big old fight. And the cops were called. And I remember the cop coming in and said, all right, you're going to have to cut it off. It's time to cut it down to get the party off. Because they got in a fight and everything else. So I hope he's okay. And then the guy comes back in and he says, look, man, did my guy keep you pinned up? And I says, yeah, he's all right. He said, no, but are you straight? And I said, yeah, I'm straight. And he goes, well, here's 3 more. So he dropped me 3 more right there out of his pocket. So this was like my very first gig. But what happened in that whole time frame was I went from Goose to the Moose. So I flipped the script because one of the people came in and says, oh, so you're the Moose. And I was like, the Moose? That didn't click in my head just right then. So I get home and I'm like, Moose? I like that. I like a moose. I love mooses. Moose is my favorite. I love their meat too. Moose meat is the best, especially when you get them from Vancouver, BC up there in that region where my dad used to hunt. So up there in that region. So he would come home with moose. They go on moose, get their moose tickets. They get 3 moose. And they come back with a lot of meat. And a couple heads for the lodge that they had back when I was a kid. So anyways, that's the story of how DJ Spruce Goose went to DJ Spruce Moose. Notice I said Spruce Moose. Next week, I will tell you how DJ Spruce Moose went in and got indoctrinated to damoose as I am today. So check out Storytime next week with yours truly, Slick Rick. I'm just kidding. With the Moose Squad. Let's kick it.